When billionaire Ethan Cross lost his wife, Isabella, during childbirth, his world split apart like shattered glass, and the mansion he once filled with laughter turned into a quiet, frozen palace of grief where even the sunlight seemed afraid to enter. His newborn triplets, Lena, Lila, and Lily, grew up healthy but eerily silent, their tiny faces rarely forming more than a faint smile. And every nanny hired over the years quit not because the babies were difficult, but because the house felt unbearably hollow, as if joy had been buried with Isabella. Ethan, consumed by work and sorrow, convinced himself that the girls' laughter had died along with their mother, until the day a young woman named Grace Langford, a lively, determined nanny with a past as heavy as Ethan's, stepped into the mansion for her interview, carrying nothing but a warm smile and a belief he thought impossible, that the girls could laugh again if only someone could reach the quiet corners of their hearts. From the moment Grace walked into the nursery, she noticed what others always missed. The girls weren't emotionless, they were observing, waiting, wanting warmth but too unused to receiving it, and instead of approaching them with forced cheer like the previous nannies had, she sat on the floor, close enough for them to reach her but far enough not to overwhelm them, humming a gentle melody her mother used to sing when she was little, and one by one the triplets turned their tiny heads, curiosity flickering in their usually blank eyes, crawling a little closer until Lily touched Grace's hand with her tiny fingers. Ethan, watching through the cracked door, felt something he hadn't felt in years, a faint quickening of hope he tried to push down because hope hurt, but he couldn't deny what he saw. The girls were responding. The next morning, instead of the usual stiff routines and silent hallways, Grace brought in a basket of hand-sewn puppets and colorful wooden toys she'd made herself. Arranging them on a soft rug as if inviting the triplets to a secret world where grief didn't exist, Lena crawled toward a puppet shaped like a lion, gently pressing her palm against its fuzzy mane, and Grace, knowing how sacred every small reaction was, made the puppet roar in the softest, cutest voice, causing Lila's eyes to widen in surprise and Lily to scoot closer as if pulled by invisible strings. For the first time in 3 years, a sound broke the mansion's curse. It wasn't laughter yet, but it was a squeal, a joyful squeal, and Grace nearly teared up because she knew what this meant. Ethan, pretending he had accidentally walked by, stood frozen in the doorway, his breath caught in his throat as he watched Grace transform his children's world with nothing but kindness, patience, and a heart that refused to let sadness win. In the following days the triplets became shadows of Grace, following her down the halls, tugging at her dress, reaching for her arms, giggling whenever she made silly faces, and soon the staff whispered among themselves that the curse was breaking. Ethan found himself drawn into moments he once avoided, eating breakfast with the children while Grace fed them in her animated, story-filled way, joining them for short walks in the garden, even laughing once when Grace accidentally got splashed by the fountain as the girls clapped in excitement. The triplets were changing, but so was he. Yet on the 7th evening, when a terrible thunderstorm struck, the old fear returned. Thunder echoed through the castle-like home, and the babies began crying uncontrollably, their first time crying out loud since their mother died, as if the storm had ripped open old wounds. Ethan rushed to the nursery in panic, but Grace was already there, sitting on the floor with the triplets in her lap, wrapping them in a warm blanket while softly whispering, it's okay, you're safe, I'm here." Her voice trembling not with fear but with compassion. Ethan watched her hold his daughters as if they were her own, calming them with a strength he didn't expect from someone so gentle, and in that moment he realized something he'd been too blind to see. Grace wasn't helping them move on from Isabella, she was helping them open their hearts to life again. The storm passed, but something new remained in its place, a sense of belonging, a sense of healing, a sense of home. A week later, during a quiet afternoon when sunlight poured through the windows like spilled gold, Grace played peekaboo with the girls, hiding behind the playhouse and popping out with exaggerated surprise, and that was when it happened. First a tiny giggle, then another, then 3 little voices bursting into full laughter that echoed through every corner of the mansion like bells of pure joy. The staff froze, Ethan dropped the glass he was holding, and Grace, overwhelmed, fell to her knees as the triplets ran into her arms, laughing uncontrollably as if freeing all the happiness they had been storing for years. Ethan couldn't hold back. He rushed into the playroom, scooped his daughters into his arms, tears falling freely, and whispered, "You're laughing, my girls, you're laughing." And then he turned to Grace, his voice breaking. "How did you do this? I've tried everything, and you brought them back to life." But Grace simply shook her head and replied, "They were never gone, they were just waiting for someone to listen." As weeks passed, Grace and Ethan grew closer, not through romance but through shared healing, through the little moments, feeding the babies together, cleaning up toys side by side, watching the triplets take their first steps while holding both their hands. And soon Ethan realized his home wasn't quiet anymore. His heart wasn't empty anymore, and his daughters were finally living, finally smiling, finally being children again. One evening, after putting the girls to sleep, Ethan found Grace sitting on the staircase, staring at a framed picture of Isabella with soft respect, and Grace quietly said, "She's beautiful, they have her eyes." And Ethan, instead of flinching at the mention of his late wife, smiled for the first time when thinking of her, replying, "And you've given them something she would've wanted." Their laughter back. From that night onward, Grace became more than a nanny. She became the bridge between grief and healing, between what was lost and what could be rebuilt, and the mansion that once felt like a tomb now pulsed with warmth, noise, chaos, and happiness. Years later, when the triplets could finally speak, Lena told her father, "Daddy, Miss Grace fixed us," and Ethan, with tears in his eyes, hugged them all and whispered, "She fixed all of us." So if this powerful story touched your heart, made you smile, or reminded you that healing is always possible no matter how broken life seems, then make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because more emotional, life-changing stories are coming, and you won't want to miss a single one.